Okay, video 4. I'm not going to lie, I've lost the will to live, but let's push on, right? If I can do this, you can do it. So I don't care how bored you are, I don't care how much you're thinking, really, is this guy still going on? Don't just try and do this video. Before you do the video, try and do it on your own to see if you know it. So, pause it for a second, go and try the sheet, see if you know it, and we'll see how we're going. So, hopefully now you've come back from pausing it, and I'm going to start off with the definitions. So first of all, the definition for inflation is, now you have to use these key words or it's a rubbish definition. Some joker somewhere is just going to say inflation is when prices go up. Don't be that joker. Instead, you're going to say it's a sustained increase in the general, you can't say average, but you can say general either way, price level. Right, please say price level, don't just say price. Price level, and the grand finale is to say as measured by, this is horrible handwriting, sorry, CPI. Now the CPI is a consumer price index. Sometimes you might see them talk about the RPI, which is the retail price index, but basically they just have different baskets of goods that they measure. Okay, now the definition for deflation, I'm not going to write it out, is exactly the same as the definition for inflation, but there's one difference in words. So instead of increase, it is a decrease. Right? Okay, now you don't really need to know much about deflation until A2, so I won't really panic too much about that. Okay, here we go. Inflation, how is it measured? With inflation, you first of all say there's going to be something called a family expenditure survey. Right? That's stage one. So that means they survey families and say what are the things you're buying. Secondly, from that, they make a basket of goods. Now, some books say this is 650 items, others say 700, but, you know, either way, I'm sure you'll be fine. So, basket of goods is normally around about 700 items. So these are the items that matter most to people in the economy right now. So an example for you is lipstick has now gone out, but instead of lipstick, they're now putting lip gloss. So they keep on changing things to change with taste. Right, so the third thing they do after they've got their basket of goods, they have to weight them. This means they have to say which one's more important than the other. Because the thing is, like, lipstick or lip gloss isn't as important as petrol prices. So they have to decide which one's the most important and give it more weight. After they've done that, they actually turn it into something called an index. But we're going to learn that in another section, so don't panic about it for the minute. And then finally, they then see if prices have gone up or down. There we are. That's how it's done. Okay, we've got two types of inflation. Now, bizarrely, some people find this quite hard, and I think it's fairly easy. So you've got to remember there is demand pull inflation, and on the other side there's going to be something called cost push inflation. Right. Please do not be that joker who calls demand pull inflation is when demand goes up. Because that's like half the story. Because if demand goes up and there's enough supply, prices won't go up. The key thing is demand goes up, but supply can't meet it. Now, in your diagram, if you look at your diagram, you're going to be doing the one where the AS is like that, curvy, and you'll have demand down here, and then demand might go up. Right, I wish I hadn't done that first line like that. Right, don't worry about it, it's fine. So, as you can see, the price level has gone up. There we are. So the price level's gone up, and this is demand pull inflation. And the reason is, as you can see, along here, as you go along here, there's still, demand is going up, but there's still enough supply to meet it. But when it gets to this point, supply has reached its maximum, so it can't keep up with demand, which means prices are starting to go up. Right, the thing is, if AD just went from AD1 to AD2 here, demand has gone up, but prices haven't gone up. This is just because there's enough spare capacity. Right, that's demand pull. And remember, demand pull inflation can happen whenever there is an increase in C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Right. Next, cost push inflation. Now, this is the only time you break out your short run AS diagram. And it's because it's, I'll tell you in a second. Right. So I do my diagram like this. I do AD. I do SRAS. Come on. Right, okay. So I can't remember what I was doing. Someone just came in. They ruined my video here. So short run AS is there. It goes to the left. Right, so this is your diagram. Give me a second, I'll jot it down and I'll explain why it does this. Right, okay, so as you can see, prices have gone up. And the reason why it is remember, the short run AS line is changed by a change in a firm's cost of production. So for example, if oil prices went up, this means it costs firms more to produce goods. So that means they're going to supply less, like this. Not only are they going to supply less, they're going to have to put the price up to maintain their profit margin. So that means there'll be something called cost push inflation. So the firm's costs have increased, therefore they have to push on this cost onto their customers. Now, obviously, sometimes when a firm's costs go up, they don't push on the price to their customers, but this is normally because of things like if they're in a really competitive market. Right, if you've watched the previous video, which you have to, you'll have seen this output gap diagram. If you haven't seen it, go back to the previous video and see the end of it. So there's real GDP at the top, and there's time here. And in the last video, that's the trend rate, and this is the actual rate. In the last video, we talked about this negative output gap, but we're not going to talk about that this time. We're going to talk about a positive output gap. Right, a positive output gap sounds positive, it sounds really good, but it's not, because this means the economy is growing faster than it can keep up supply. So we've got, this is on a PPF. Right, as you can see, this point here is the same as this point here. This means demand is more than the economy is able to produce. So as soon as demand is more than the economy is able to produce, that means there's going to be, in a positive output gap, there will be inflation. And that's bad. And this is why, back in the day when we talked about the main macroeconomic objectives, it's not enough for the government to say they want to grow, because if they go way too fast, then supply won't be able to keep up, which can cause inflation.